On the afternoon of June 16, 2026, near Mala Tokmachka in Zaporizhia, Russian forces reportedly tried something fast, risky, and dangerous. More than 30 light vehicles, including motorcycles, ATVs, and modified assault vehicles, moved toward Ukrainian defenses in broad daylight. This was not the usual armored column with tanks leading the way. It was smaller, faster, and harder to stop at first sight. The idea was clear. Move quickly, cross exposed ground, reduce the time under drone observation, and push infantry close enough to threaten Ukrainian positions. On paper, that kind of speed could solve a serious problem for Russia. But in Ukraine, speed can also become a trap. Above the battlefield, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones were already watching. Every road, every tree line, every moving group could become part of a larger picture. And once that picture was clear, the attack was no longer just moving forward. It was moving inside a zone of danger. Before we go deeper, subscribe to Military Force, because this battle shows how modern war can turn movement into exposure, and exposure into defeat. Russia is using more motorcycles, ATVs, and light vehicles because the old armored assault is becoming harder to hide and harder to protect in Ukraine. For most of modern war, tanks and infantry fighting vehicles were the symbols of ground power. They could carry troops, fire heavy weapons, and push through enemy lines with armor in front. But the battlefield in Ukraine has changed. A tank is still powerful, but it is also large, hot, noisy, and easy to track from the sky. A BMP can move troops forward, but it often has to follow roads, field paths, or gaps that drones have already watched for hours. Once a reconnaissance UAV finds that movement, FPV teams can wait, adjust, and strike the vehicle before it reaches the trench line. That is the problem Russia is trying to solve. If heavy armor is too visible, then smaller vehicles may look like a faster answer. A motorcycle can cross open ground in seconds. An ATV can move through dirt roads, tree lines, and narrow spaces where a larger vehicle may get stuck or exposed. These machines do not offer real protection, but they give assault troops something else: speed. In a drone-covered battlefield, even a few seconds can matter, because the longer a group stays in the open, the more time Ukraine has to identify it, share coordinates, and send FPV drones toward it. This does not mean Russia has found a better form of armored warfare. It means Moscow is adapting under pressure. When armored losses are high, commanders look for cheaper, simpler, and easier to replace options. A motorcycle costs far less than a tank. It needs less fuel, it is easier to transport, and it can be handed to small assault teams without waiting for a full mechanized column. That makes it useful for raids, probes, and quick attacks, especially when the goal is not to break the whole front at once. In many cases, the purpose of these light assaults is more limited. A small group can rush toward a trench, test a weak point, force Ukrainian defenders to reveal firing positions, or prepare the way for another wave behind it. If the riders reach the edge of a village or a tree line, they may create confusion long enough for more infantry to follow. That is why these attacks can be dangerous, even when they look improvised. They are not always designed to win the battle in one move. Sometimes they are designed to create a crack. But the weakness is clear. A soldier on a motorcycle has almost no protection from shell fragments, machine gun fire, mines, drone-dropped grenades, or FPV strikes. If the lead group is hit, the men behind it may have little time to react. If the route is already watched, speed can turn into a signal instead of a shield. The same movement that helps a rider cross open ground can also help a drone operator understand where the group is going. This is why the shift matters for American viewers who follow weapons and battlefield tactics. Ukraine is no longer only a contest between armor and anti-armor weapons. It is becoming a fight between ground mobility and constant aerial surveillance. Russia is trying to move faster because moving with heavy armor has become too costly. Yet speed only works if it breaks through the enemy's observation network. And that is where the problem begins, because at Mala Tokmachka, the tactic had to face the one thing it was designed to escape: Ukrainian eyes above the battlefield. Mala Tokmachka shows that Russia is no longer using motorcycles and ATVs as a small experiment, but as part of a planned assault package on the Zaporizhzhia front. Ukrainian reports say the 118th Separate Mechanized Brigade defeated a Russian attack near Mala Tokmachka after Russian troops tried to push toward the settlement from several directions. This detail matters. A single motorcycle group can look like a desperate raid, but more than 30 light vehicles moving across 3 routes points to something more organized. Russia was not only sending riders forward, it was trying to stretch Ukrainian attention, test several approach lines, and find a weak point before defenders could fully react. The timing also tells us something important. The attack reportedly began around 6 p.m. on June 16th under broad daylight and clear visibility. That is unusual because many assaults are launched near dawn, dusk, or during poor weather, when shadows and low light can reduce exposure. Here, Russia appears to have accepted the risk of being seen in exchange for speed and surprise. The calculation may have been simple. If the assault moved fast enough, the riders could cross dangerous ground before Ukrainian drone teams turned observation into strikes. On this battlefield, that was a dangerous bet. The structure of the assault makes the case stronger. Some vehicles were reportedly fitted with improvised mine-clearing tools, while other groups carried mobile electronic warfare systems designed to interfere with Ukrainian drones. This was not only a rush by lightly equipped infantry, it was an attempt to build a small mobile attack system. The mine equipment was meant to open lanes. The electronic warfare support was meant to reduce the drone threat. The motorcycles and ATVs were meant to deliver troops quickly. Together, these pieces show that Russian commanders understood the main danger above them, but understanding the danger is not the same as escaping it. The cost was heavy, according to Ukrainian sources. Reports said 26 Russian assault troops were killed, more than 10 others were wounded, and many motorcycles and ATVs were destroyed before the force could achieve its purpose. Those numbers are not only battlefield losses, they show the failure of a concept under real conditions. A light vehicle assault can move quickly, but it has little margin for error. Once the approach is detected, riders have almost no armor, little cover, and limited ability to absorb a first wave of strikes. What looked flexible at the start can become fragile within minutes. Mala Tokmachka also carries a larger military and political meaning because this is not an ordinary village. The 118th Brigade has been recognized in Ukraine for holding the sector for more than 1,500 days under infantry assaults, artillery fire, air attacks, and drone pressure. That history gives the June 16th attack more weight. Russia was probing a position that has become a long-term symbol of Ukrainian defensive endurance in Zaporizhzhia. So the key point is not only that Russia used more than 30 motorcycles and ATVs. The deeper point is that Moscow tried to turn them into a structured assault with several routes, technical support, and pressure from the rear. That makes the failure more important. It shows that Russia is adapting, but it also shows the limits of that adaptation when Ukrainian surveillance can read the attack before it reaches the village. And once Russian movement entered that watched space, the real advantage was no longer speed on the ground, but the side that could see the whole battlefield first. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones turned the Russian light assault into a target list before the riders reached the defensive line. This is the key difference between moving fast and moving unseen. A motorcycle can cross a field quickly, and an ATV can slip through a narrow path, but neither becomes invisible. From above, the movement creates a pattern. The drone can see where the first group is going, how far the vehicles are spaced, which route they prefer, and where support elements are placed. That information matters more than one quick strike, because it allows the defenders to understand the shape of the attack before the attack reaches its dangerous point. In this kind of fight, the reconnaissance UAV is not only a camera, it is the first part of a kill chain. It detects movement, follows the route, confirms the target, and helps pass the data to FPV teams waiting nearby. The FPV drone then becomes the weapon that closes the loop. It does not have to hit every rider at once. It only has to strike the right part of the formation at the right moment. A support vehicle, a mine-clearing bike, an electronic warfare system, or a leading group can be more important than a random target because removing it can disturb the entire assault. That is why the first explosions are often more important for their effect than for their size. A blast on the road can force one vehicle to stop, make another rider turn, and push a third group toward a tree line. In seconds, the formation no longer moves as one body. Some men accelerate because they believe speed is still the answer. Others slow down because they think the route has been compromised. A few may try to leave the road, while the rest continue forward without knowing what the others have seen. The attack begins to lose its rhythm. Once that rhythm breaks, speed stops being a shared advantage. It becomes a private decision made by each small group under pressure. This is where drone warfare becomes especially dangerous. The defenders can still watch the full picture from above, while the men on the ground see only dust, smoke, noise, and broken movement around them. A commander may order the assault to continue, but the riders may not know which lane is open, which vehicle has been hit, or whether the next group is behind them. Confusion spreads faster than orders. The same pattern appeared in the Pokrovsk source. The Russian riders first trusted movement, and the road seemed clear for a short time. Then a support element was hit, radio reports began to conflict, and the groups no longer acted together. Some pushed ahead, some stopped, and others searched for cover. The lesson is not that every vehicle was destroyed immediately. The deeper point is that the formation stopped functioning as one force. For viewers who follow tactics, this is the real meaning of the Ukrainian drone advantage. Reconnaissance does not only find targets, it helps choose the moment when one strike can create the most disorder. FPV drones then attack the part of the formation that holds the assault together. After that, the battlefield becomes easier to manage for the defender, because scattered groups are easier to track than a coordinated push. And once the first wave loses its timing, the danger does not stay at the front. It begins moving backward, toward the groups entering the same watched road. A motorcycle assault can collapse very quickly when the front groups and the rear groups no longer understand the same battlefield. This is where the danger grows beyond the first vehicle's hit. When a forward group comes under attack, every rider faces a hard choice. Keep moving toward the objective, turn back through the same road, or leave the route and search for cover. In a clear command system, those choices should be controlled from above. But under drone pressure, smoke, noise, and damaged vehicles can break that control within seconds. One group may believe the attack is still alive. Another may believe the route is already lost. A third may not hear anything useful at all. Once that happens, the assault stops acting like one force. The rear groups face an even more dangerous problem. They may not see what has already happened ahead of them. They may hear broken radio warnings, but those warnings can be late, unclear, or incomplete. From behind, smoke can look like a sign of battle, not disaster. A road filled with damaged motorcycles may not be visible until the second wave is already too close. This is how a moving attack becomes crowded. Some men are trying to reach the front, while others are trying to escape from it. That kind of confusion is deadly for light vehicles. A tank column has armor, mass, and some ability to push through damaged ground. Motorcycles and ATVs do not. They need space, speed, and a clear path. When riders moving forward meet riders coming back, the road can turn into a trap. A damaged ATV blocks a lane. A wounded soldier lies near the ditch. A rider swerves to avoid smoke and forces another vehicle off the path. Every small mistake creates another obstacle, and every obstacle gives Ukrainian drone teams more time to watch. The Pokrovsk source shows this pattern clearly. The second Russian wave heard only pieces of the warning, then kept moving toward the same danger area where the first wave had already broken apart. Some men saw smoke and believed the attack was still pushing forward. Others saw riders coming back and thought the whole movement was failing. The result was not only damage, it was a loss of shared understanding. The road no longer carried one assault. It carried separate groups moving with different fears and different orders. Mala Tokmachka fits the same wider lesson. Russia reportedly tried to attack from 3 directions, which could have forced Ukrainian defenders to divide their attention at the start. But that design also creates risk. If one route is hit and another keeps moving, coordination becomes harder. If one group loses contact, the others may not know whether to slow down, push forward, or shift toward another path. A multi-direction assault only works if timing stays intact. Once that timing breaks, 3 routes can become 3 separate problems. This is the difference between losing vehicles and losing the attack itself. A few destroyed motorcycles do not automatically end an operation. But broken rhythm, unclear orders, blocked roads, and scattered groups can do what a single explosion cannot. They can turn an assault force into a crowd of survivors. For Russia, the cost is not only equipment. It is also the lost moment, the lost pressure, and the lost chance to keep Ukraine's defensive line under organized stress. And when the formation finally breaks apart, the battle changes shape. Ukraine no longer has to stop one moving assault. It can begin hunting the smaller groups left behind. Ukrainian drones do not need to destroy every Russian soldier at the first contact point to break an assault. After a light vehicle formation falls apart, the battle enters a different phase. It is no longer one moving attack with a clear direction. It becomes a search for cover, a fight for survival, and a race against the drones still watching from above. Some soldiers may run into tree lines. Others may hide in drainage ditches, behind damaged motorcycles, beside abandoned ATVs, or under branches near the road. From the ground, those places can feel safer than open fields. From the sky, they can still be part of the same target map. This is where UAV pressure becomes more than a strike tool. It becomes a system for controlling movement. A reconnaissance drone can follow footprints, heat signals, dust trails, and sudden gatherings of men near cover. It can see where a group stops, where another group crawls, and where wounded soldiers are pulled away from the road. Then FPV drones or bomber drones can be sent against the most exposed cluster. The attack does not need to happen all at once. It can continue in waves as each hidden group is found, fixed, and hit. That is why the failure of a motorcycle assault does not end when the first vehicles burn. The first explosions may stop the forward push, but the real collapse comes later, when surviving groups cannot reform. A few men may still have rifles, some may still have ammunition. A small number of vehicles may remain usable. But if those troops cannot find each other, cannot receive clear orders, and cannot understand which route is safe, they are no longer an assault force. They are separated units under constant observation. For Russia, this creates a serious tactical problem. Light vehicles are useful only when they keep momentum. They depend on speed, spacing, and quick decision-making. But after the formation breaks, those same advantages disappear. A motorcycle hidden beside a tree line cannot help the next group move forward. An ATV stuck near a ditch becomes cover for a few seconds, then a marker for drone operators. A wounded squad cannot hold pressure on Ukrainian positions if it is trying to avoid another FPV strike. This is the larger lesson from Mala Tokmachka. Ukraine did not have to stop every rider at the same moment. It only had to break the order of the attack, cut the coordination between groups, and keep pressure on the survivors long enough to prevent them from becoming a fighting formation again. That is a different kind of battlefield defeat. It is not only about bodies or vehicles, it is about destroying the ability to act together. For viewers who follow modern war, this is one of the most important changes in Ukraine. The fight is no longer only infantry against infantry, or armor against anti-tank weapons. It is becoming a contest between ground movement and a permanent drone network. Reconnaissance, UAVs watch. FPV teams strike. Bomber drones punish hiding places. Electronic warfare tries to interfere, but it cannot always cover every small group across every route. Precision fire then turns scattered movement into repeated danger. Mala Tokmachka shows why survival now depends on more than speed. A force must keep formation, protect communications, control the route, and know when to stop before movement becomes exposure. In a battlefield watched almost constantly from above, the fastest vehicle is not always the safest one. Sometimes the side that sees, waits, and strikes at the right moment controls the battle, before the ground troops understand what has happened. Mala Tokmachka shows that modern war is no longer decided only by the biggest vehicle on the road. Russia used motorcycles, ATVs, and other light vehicles because the battlefield has become too exposed for many traditional armored moves. These machines can move fast, cost less, and carry assault troops across dangerous ground. But speed alone cannot solve the deeper problem. If the sky is watching, every movement can become a signal, and every signal can become a target. That is why this battle matters beyond one local attack in Zaporizhzhia. Ukraine did not need to destroy every Russian vehicle at the first moment. It only needed to see the formation early, break its timing, disrupt its coordination, and keep pressure on the groups that survived. Once the assault lost its rhythm, the force on the ground no longer had the same power. Some men still had weapons, some vehicles may still have moved, but the attack itself had lost direction. This is the hard lesson for any army watching Ukraine today. Light mobility can help troops avoid some risks, but it cannot replace command, communication, cover, and control of the low sky. A motorcycle can cross a field quickly, but it cannot protect a soldier from FPV drones, bomber drones, mines, or small arms fire once the route is exposed. Mala Tokmachka is not just a story about destroyed vehicles. It is a warning about a battlefield where movement is being measured, tracked, and punished in real time. The future of ground combat may depend less on who moves first and more on who sees first. If you want more clear battlefield analysis like this, subscribe to Military Force and stay with us as we follow how weapons, tactics, and modern war continue to change.